All right, everybody, I am here with Peter Lavelle, host of RT's CrossTalk. Peter, let's talk Venezuela. Let's do an update and go over what's been going on. It's been a busy week, a lot of activity going on. This is, in many ways, a different kind of war, but in many ways, it's the same old thing. So, Peter, what's your take on what's happening in Venezuela?
Well, this is just a regime change a la Venezuela. You know, it's specific elements, but I mean, this is something we've seen repeatedly. The most immediate echo, of course, is what happened in early 2014 in Ukraine. Okay, and identify an interim leader, demonize the legitimate democratically elected, Yanukovych, and hoping that he, we thought will flee like Yanukovych did. So this is really what's going on right now. Is, first of all, this was very well planned. I suggest you take a look over at Gray Zone, and I think consortiumnews.com, Max Blumenthal's article chronicles this wonderfully, how this goes all the way back to forced regime change against Milosevic in Serbia.
We'll put the link.
Yeah, right, and that's when that game plan was written, and it's been used ever since. Again, depending on what country and what features they have, but it's more or less the same thing. What's going on right now is managing perceptions, and that's propaganda and misinformation. We have Elliot Abrams. Now, anybody that knows anything about Latin America over the last 30 years, 40 years, just found that horrifying. But that's exactly what it is. John Bolton wants to have Elliot Abrams, the butcher of Reagan's 1980s foreign policy towards Latin America. That's to scare people because they know this guy is a lunatic, okay? He will do extreme things. So does that mean the U.S. plans on doing it? Maybe. But what it does is it's telling Venezuela, its current leadership and the military, we've got this lunatic and we're going to let him loose. So that really kind of shook people up. How much room he's actually going to be given? I mean, again, if you look at some of the writings of Max Blumenthal, I mean, Elliot Abrams has a lot of crazy ideas. Some of them have been used, okay, but he has a whole laundry list of what he can propose. And that brings us to CNN was talking to, quote unquote, two defectors, right, which it looks a bit suspicious. Their uniforms didn't match current uniforms. So, the moderate rebels, here we go again, the Syria forced regime change attempt, okay? What's very important here is that we don't have a diplomatic, members of the diplomatic corps defecting, which is important. We still have an opposition in Venezuela that may be coming together, but they're still very, very divided on if there should be any kind of intervention. That's a raw nerve for a lot of people, and it's a raw nerve that goes across political lines. So again, I think it's a lot of bluster right now. The legal pad, 5,000 troops to Colombia.
Bolton,
that's the psych you out. He obviously was doing it as a prop. So also what's in play, we have Citgo, we have the Venezuelan refineries in the United States. Interestingly enough, what they want to do, the U.S. wants to do is to blockade the sale of Venezuelan oil. And going to these refineries on the east coast of the United States are made specifically for Venezuelan oil because it's very thick. It's a really high value crude, and they want to bankrupt these refineries, which they're almost bankrupt anyway. I mean, before we sat down here to talk, I mean, it's been going on for months, and way before these immediate events. So. There's going to be a big legal battle for the assets themselves. And guess what, everybody? Russia owns 49.9% of Citgo's assets. Okay, so whatever they do, it's going to be in the courts for years. And I can guarantee you when Russia signs these kind of agreements, they make sure they're bulletproof. Russia very rarely loses in international courts because it writes these contracts extremely well, because they know that there are going to be people that want to pull a fast one. So that will go into arbitration for a very long time. Now, switching assets to this interim self-inaugurated president is going to be very, very difficult. There's going to be a lot of court challenges. I think it's going to be very difficult to do it through that route. I mean, just giving them the money, I suppose, is one way. But again, right now, it's more about managing perceptions. And if we look at some of the protests over the last 48, 72 hours, the anti-government ones are decreasing. Right. The pro-government ones seem to be stable, and pro-opposition seems to be ebbing. And it's basically in the more well-to-do districts of Caracas. So, it's really early days, and like I said, they've been planning this for a very long time. I'm sure the U.S. and its allies are going to up the ante. An incident, it's going to all be filmed. Remarkably, CNN will be there. They were there for Roger Stone, and now they're there for the opposition in Venezuela on cue all the time.
Snipers in the Maidan.
Yeah. They want to have some kind of event so they can pivot to the next stage. Okay, but having said that, I think the Venezuelans, they've studied the American game plan. They're going to have their reactions too. The legitimate government in Venezuela is not going to cave, not easily and not quickly. There's too much at stake here. All right, and look what Yanukovych fled because he feared for his life. I mean, you're going to have the senior members of the Venezuelan government feeling the same way, and so there'll be no mercy. There's no amnesty. There is nothing out there. You have to fight, or they'll take you out. It's as simple as that. Okay, it's very simple what's going on, and this is all part of the troika. What is it? The troika of tyranny. If we look what's going on in the broader picture, similar things, though they're not getting the same headlines, is focusing and targeting Cuba and Nicaragua, and this is all part of a triage to change Latin America towards the interests of the United States. So we'll keep an eye on those things because they're all coordinated. And then you have that idiot from Florida, that boy, Marco Rubio, playing the public face of a lot of this here. And of course, he left the communist dictatorship of Cuba. His parents. No, he didn't. He left. His parents left when Batista was there. Right. America's dictator in Cuba, not Castro. So Marco Rubio he's kind of a Pocahontas on that one there, okay? He's not being straightforward and honest about it, though he likes to deliver these kind of cheap propaganda points.
He rarely is. He rarely is. But what do you make, Peter, of the fact that the EU helped push Ukraine to the brink of war? Actually, they pushed them towards war in a very significant way. And here we have the EU once again recognizing the Guaidó government. The parliament has recognized the government, the Guaidó government, but you also have Italy defecting. Well,
okay. I think the Italy's position is far more important than this. What the EU Parliament thinks, who cares? Who cares what the EU Parliament thinks, all right? Most people in the European Union don't even know it exists, okay? So what? It's important that countries like Italy are standing out. This isn't going to be, I think, in some ways having the European Parliament say something kind of, so the Europeans say, well, look what we did. We did it, okay? I don't see that they're all that vested in this at this point, okay? And plus, considering all the problems the EU and the United States have over a variety of issues, this was at no cost, I think, right. Okay? I mean, it's basically why irritate, Bolton and Trump and all these other people. What's the point? Because they're going to do what they're going to do anyway. Okay, what if the European Parliament came out unanimously against this coup attempt? Do you think anyone in Washington would care? No. All right, so that's overrated. Okay, it's very overrated. They don't have assets. They don't have influence. it's overrated.
Yeah. What about the whole upping of sanctions, the issue with the gold? That was a big story, the gold from the Bank of England not going to Maduro. And they say it's going to Guaidó now. So, I mean, you have all this stuff in the background.
What mechanism is that? Okay, they don't have a mechanism for it. All right. What are they going to do? Use Western Union? Okay. They say these things. Okay. They say it. But how are they going to do it? When they're going to do it? That's the highest form of corruption in Venezuela. I mean, who is this guy? Okay. All right. So, I mean, this is a very corrupt act and a desperate act. The whole issue with Venezuela's gold, and it's got a lot of it. OK, it's one of the huge reserves and production is vast. United Arab Emirates are going to start taking some of Venezuelan gold because they don't trust the Bank of England anymore. There they go again. They blew their reputation. The city takes another hit at its reputation. And I think Russia may help play a role in that. After all, Russian companies or joint ventures in Venezuela mine the gold. Okay, and Russia plays a big role inside of Venezuela's gold markets, and so does Turkey, by the way, because Turkey refines it and certifies it. So, and these are concerns. I mean, obviously, what they want to do is the Russians, mostly through Rosneft, the largest oil company in Russia, they have a lot of contacts and investments and interest in Venezuela. This is part of the regime change strategy too. They want to kick the Russians out. They want to kick the Chinese out. That's one thing they want to do. And Venezuela is very vulnerable. It's very vulnerable. But the Chinese will say, these are valid contracts and internationally recognized sovereign country and government, and you have to own up to them. And that's going to be nasty. That could go deep and long in the courts. And the Chinese are pretty good at the law, too. So what it is that what Bolton and his ilk want to do is they want shock and awe. They want to boom, and scare people and whisk in and take it. The thing is, it's not going to work. It's not going to work that way. It doesn't mean it won't turn into a quagmire. It very well could. Though the United States, that's an acceptable plan B. Okay, look what happened to Ukraine. Over 12,000 people were killed in the Donbass. Okay, oops, that's how the Americans feel about it. And considering the atrocities the United States has committed in the Western Hemisphere, particularly since the Second World War, we could do a series of videos on all the coups and coup attempts. Okay, so if violence starts, it will beget a lot of violence because if you're perceived to being on the wrong side, amnesty isn't in the cards. Yeah. And basically they take you in the parking lot at night and, well, you're gone. Yeah. I'm serious, okay? Or put you in a stadium.
Yeah, it's not going to end up well. It's not going to end up good, this whole thing. But what do you make about the reports that Guaidó is actually courting the Chinese and the Russians to side with him? What do you think of that?
The Russians and the Chinese are going to say, who are you? That's their response right now. Who are you? What standing do you have? Okay, do you have a political base inside the country? Is the military defected to you? What's the name of your political party, by the way? I mean, no, they're going to say, why should we trust you? We've been dealing with the Venezuelan government since Chavez to the present, and there's been mismanagement. The Russians and the Chinese have come in and essentially bailed them out. Basically, they'll bail out their financial problems for asset swaps. Okay, I don't think Guaidó's handlers in Washington are going to be very pleased with that. I think it's all a smoke screen. I think it's a smoke screen completely. If he gets into power, he's going to be told exactly what to do, and it's not going to be kissing the rings of the Chinese and Russians. No way. Okay, that's a smoke screen. It doesn't have any value.
All right, next 2 weeks are going to be critical for Maduro. Do you see this thing dragging out further, maybe a 3 to 6 month kind of thing?
Oh, I definitely think that they want shock and awe, and I think you and I are going to be talking early next week about what that shock and awe is and how people are going to react to it. No, they don't. I don't think they want this thing to drag out. I think they want a decision. They want it to be emphatic, and what they want to do is they want to show the Nicaraguans and the Cubans, you're next. Okay, that's why. But like I said, I mean, after everything we've said here, I mean, a plan B, quagmire, would be perfectly, it would be a consolation prize. Okay, fine. We didn't get what we wanted, but it's a mess, and it's going to be a mess for a very long time. But, you know, all these right-wing governments in South America that have come out and supported this, they better be careful what they wish for, because you're going to have population displacements. Okay, I mean, if the economy gets I mean, it's in bad shape in Venezuela. If it gets much worse, they're going to have people spilling over the borders and build the wall, because they're going to be going to the United States. Okay, I mean, if Venezuelans want to leave their country and go to the United States, you think the Mexicans are going to stop them? No, look at it. Say, here's a nicely paved road for you, and here are all these concession stands. You can buy hot dogs and tacos all the way up to the border. Okay, no way. The U.S. will rue the day if they bust that country up, because there's going to be huge population displacements.
The country's already. I mean, how's Trump going to walk any of this back? It's already busted up. If you look at, you can't.
You know, I've been saying this from the advent of his presidency. All right, he may truly see. The thing is that I think in his mind, and I think everyone should be careful about reading his mind. He really wants to keep that promise that he didn't start another conflict. Now he's managing the ones that he inherited, and not very well in some cases. Okay, look, I mean, he says if they can make a deal with the Taliban, we should leave Afghanistan. People want that. Okay. Then, of course, everyone around him is putting a stop to that, okay? But I really have to hope, you know, and knock on wood, I hope he doesn't want to start a war in Latin America. That we know the second day he was in office, he wanted a Venezuelan briefing. Interesting, okay? But that is something, look, there's a lot of oil there, obviously, okay? There's a lot of people with money, a great deal of it ill-gotten as well. But, you know, do you think they're going to give up on their concessions? No. They're going to come out with their own little private militias and and hire mercenaries, and, you know, they're going to fight this. There's a lot to fight for, okay? There's a lot to fight for, and people will fight for it. So, you know, they better be careful what they wish for. I really want to stress, and this is the takeaway on this conversation, is that we're in the shock and awe phase of this, to see if they get a quick punch knockout. They're looking for a knockout, quick. Okay, and they have contingencies, a lot of them. Okay, that's what Elliot Abrams is all about. Okay, a list of contingencies. With Bolton, you know, with the legal pad, and, you know, the additional sanctions, taking away Citgo, anyway, that's the shock and awe. Like, it's really raining down hard, okay? But the animosity that Washington has had towards Venezuela since the advent of the Chavez era to the present is that the Venezuelans are getting their own contingency plans together as well. And you have to remember, I think, you know, this is what so many pundits don't understand about Venezuela. And I'm not a big booster for Chavez. I just look at him objectively, okay? He gave voice to millions and millions of Venezuelans that had been shut out of the political system for its entire history. And that's why he was adored, okay? He was one of them. He understood them. And now we're going to have these crazy white right-wingers come in. They don't look kindly upon the poor at all. They're a nuisance, okay, for them. And they're not going to take care of them. They're not going to make promises. And so, you know, it's going to be the people who are going to play a big role in this too, because they have been given agency, and they don't want that taken away from them again. You can't take it away. They will not. They will not allow that to happen. That's what makes this very explosive, and that's why I think policymakers in Washington don't understand Venezuela very well.
Very explosive, very sad. And as you're speaking, Peter, I think Buddy, your little dog, is also lamenting and also sad about what's happening in Venezuela.
Yeah, he wants attention because he doesn't know who I'm talking to.
All right, we'll end it on that. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's CrossTalk. Thank you very much. Guys, if you like this video, click on the subscribe button down below and click on the notifications bell to get notifications every time we push out a new video. And go to the Duran shop, pick up a t-shirt, help support the Duran. In the description box, you will find links to our PayPal and Patreon pages. And also, you can get a copy of this in audio format on iTunes and SoundCloud, so follow us there. Peter Lavelle, host of RT's CrossTalk. Thank you very much. Until next time, everybody, take care.